Okay, I'm going to get started by just welcoming everyone. Welcome to Wat Tung Yu. Nice to see everyone here this morning. Welcome to everyone joining online as well. Today is the third day of a 5-day course that I'm teaching, and I realize some of you guys might just be here for the morning, and that's fine. You guys are welcome to stay as long as you like or as short as you like. It's really up to you. But today is the third day of a course that I'm teaching, and over this period of time today, I'm going to be starting with meditation to guide students in a meditation session, and then afterwards, I'm going to be sharing this talk of transforming the three poisons: craving, anger, and ignorance. This is where you get an understanding from the Buddha of kind of a high level understanding of what's going on in the unenlightened mind and why it keeps experiencing things like anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All these feelings are actually eliminated by the time you actually experience enlightenment. You can eliminate the causes and conditions that are producing it, and namely, it's craving, anger, and ignorance. This is a high-level way to refer to the pollutions that the Buddha discovered in the mind, and then he provides you the tools and the techniques of how to eliminate those. So I'm going to be sharing that with you as part of our talk today. And then I'm going to take a mid-morning break, and when we come back, I'm going to share the 5 precepts. These are 5 impactful decisions that an individual could make either wisely or unwisely, and you'll experience either wholesome or unwholesome results based on those decisions. Then we're going to take a lunch break, probably a good hour and a half for lunch. And then when we come back, I'm going to be sharing walking meditation. This is a great meditation to learn if you have an overactive mind, if you find it very challenging to sit and be still, if you have a lot of energy in your mind. Walking meditation is really good for that. It's also helpful if you're noticing that you're falling asleep in your meditation. It kind of helps invigorate the mind a bit. So if you'd like to learn throughout the day, you're more than welcome to come and go as you please. I'm going to be starting with meditation, which is a primary training that the Buddha used in addition to other things to be able to get to enlightenment. You wouldn't be able to just meditate your way to enlightenment. That's why we share other teachings to be able to help you. So there is meditation involved in making your way to the enlightened mental state, but there's other things you would need to learn and practice and understand as part of your journey to enlightenment. So that's what I'm going to be sharing as part of our class today. If you'd like to join for meditation, the way that we start is with some chanting, and I see many of you guys have chanting sheets. If you guys would like to get those, they're over there on the cabinet, and we have some up here in the front of the room as well. You're more than welcome to help yourself. During the lifetime of the Buddha, they used chanting as a way to commit the teachings to memory. Every 2 weeks, his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally. So it was a learning tool, it was a learning device. So you can see from the origins of chanting that this isn't a rite, a ritual, or a ceremony, worship, or prayer, or anything like that. There's none of those kinds of things in the teachings of the Buddha. If you're seeing those kinds of things associated with the teachings of the Buddha, those are gross misunderstandings of the teachings. He never taught any rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, or prayer. Everything he taught you is to be able to focus on training of the mind. So there's nothing in the teachings of the Buddha that is about believing things and then hoping something good happens when you die. It's about learning, growing, and developing in this life to be able to create the ideal life now in this life. So if you'd like to chant along, you're more than welcome to. If you read the English translations, you're going to see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. And because of that, I don't even think the Buddha even created these chants, because the Buddha wouldn't walk around and say, here, chant these chants to me out of respect for me, right? This would be ego or arrogance and putting yourself above other people. And an individual who's gotten to enlightenment, they don't see themselves as being above others. So the Buddha wouldn't have taught his students to chant these to him. But if you learn from a teacher how to move from anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy, to this peaceful and joyful mental state that is enlightenment, where the mind's completely peaceful and joyful, never again experiencing any anger or sadness or any of those feelings, and this teacher was just helping you out of the kindness of their heart, you might have appreciation, gratitude, and respect for that person too. And that's where I suspect that these chants actually came from, is his students, either during his life or after his death. So you guys are welcome to chant along. The way that we use chanting nowadays is to ease our mind into meditation and actually get more benefit out of the meditation itself. So you'll see that to be the case. For those of you guys that are online, if you guys would like to get access to these chanting sheets, you can go to buddhadailywisdom.com, click on free books, and then if you scroll down towards the bottom, you'll be able to see the chanting sheet there. And you're welcome to chant along as we do our meditation. So once we do the chanting and we're in the meditation, I'm going to be providing you some guidance. It's kind of like instructing you or teaching you how to meditate while we're actually meditating together. But then there's going to be a period of time of quietness where we're all just meditating. Everyone here at the temple and anyone joining online will just all be meditating at the same time. Now, during that period of quietness, I'm sure you're going to hear occasional sounds. You're not going to be able to be in an environment where it's permanently quiet. If you're in meditation with a craving for permanent silence, you will cause your mind to be annoyed or frustrated. This is why you can actually eliminate all those discontent feelings, because it's the mind itself that is causing these. Oftentimes people think it's the outside world that's causing them to be angry or frustrated or sad or some other discontent feeling, but it's actually the mind itself that's causing these feelings. That's why you can eliminate them. Essentially what the mind's doing in the unenlightened state is it's craving for things to be permanent while you live in an impermanent world. So you're going to hear sounds during meditation. You might hear a car go by, you might hear a dog barking, a bird chirping, someone here might cough or sneeze. And if you're in meditation, understanding that that's normal, that's the way the world works, you can be peaceful and joyful, because these sounds are going to arise, they're going to change, and they're going to fade away. So during that period of quietness, you can rest at ease and be peaceful, knowing that, yeah, that sound that's happening, that's completely normal. And then after that period of quietness, then we're going to come out of that with some more chanting. And that's where I'll share with you guys the teachings of today for transforming the three poisons, understanding what these are and how to actually eradicate them from the mind. In terms of your body position for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught. There's seated, lying, standing, and walking. And you would learn these different positions at different times. It's kind of like having a tool belt and using these different tools as you need them in your journey to enlightenment. So as we sit here today, you might be in the seated position like you are today. Some people are sitting on the floor, some are in a chair. If you're at home, you might be on a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair. This is a common way to start learning, but there's other courses and retreats and ways for you to learn these other positions. But today I'm just going to give you a little bit of guidance on the seated position to maybe help you find something that's a bit more comfortable than you're already using. You can sit however you like. There isn't just one fixed way to sit. So the things that I share with you, you can think of it as suggestions or recommendations for you to consider. And you can sit in the way that I'm describing or whatever you find on your own. There isn't just one fixed way to do this. But some things you might consider is that if you're on the floor, you might have some cushions under your rear. This will kind of help soften your seat a bit. And if you're going to bring your legs together in the cross-leg position, you might just choose to do that lightly, where that'll allow the circulation to flow in the lower body. If you had your legs real tight, it could impede the circulation and cause pain in the lower body. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets your hips up in the air, and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, again, allowing the circulation to flow. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. If you'd like to do this, you can, but again, it's not about everyone doing it exactly the same way. We all have different bodies, and we're going to find different things to be comfortable. There's other options here. You could put your palms on your thighs or your knees. Some people put their palms up. Some people rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you can find whatever's comfortable for you. And the same thing's true for anyone who's in a chair, on a bench, or a sofa, or a wheelchair. You can also sit however you like. Some people like to put their feet flat on the floor or lightly cross at the ankles, but you can see me sitting here in a chair with my legs crossed, so this is an option too. And then you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. In terms of your upper body, it's helpful if this is erect with the sternum up and the shoulders back. This will help keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. Where if you were slouched, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you were real rigid, the mind could be overactive or uptight. Meditation is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities from the mind and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities in the mind. So you'd like the mind to be attentive and alert during the meditation because that'll help you to be able to actively train the mind. It also makes it easy for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So again, I'm going to get us started with some chanting, which you guys are welcome to join in on, and then I'm going to come back in with the guidance afterwards. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakewa Bhutang Mahakewanhang Apiwate Ami Savakato emahakawata tammo Dhammang namasami Supatipano emahakavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso emahakawa Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang sammuno Sakato rokawitu Anutero purisa Dhamma sati satatawa manusarang Poto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect. Just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled. Just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in, out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. สัมมาสัมพุทโธมะคะวะโอตังมหาเกวันนังอภิวาเตมิ สวากขาโตมหาเกวัตตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเกวัตโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารนังสัมมุโนสกาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภะคะวะติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to all of you guys. Nice to see everyone here this morning. Welcome to everyone joining online as well. Today, as I'm mentioning, this is the third day of a 5-day course where I'm helping students to be able to learn the foundational teachings of the path to enlightenment taught by the Buddha. The Buddha figured out how to get to enlightenment. What enlightenment is where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. By the time you get to enlightenment, you'll no longer experience any discontent feelings. The Buddha figured out that there's certain pollutions that are in the mind. And when you train your mind and you uproot those pollutions out of the mind, that you'll experience this peace, calmness, serenity, and contentedness with joy. This is occurring through gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. One of the biggest myths about the life story of the Buddha is that people think that he sat under a tree, that he meditated, and then instantly got to enlightenment. This isn't actually true. It was gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. And while meditation is surely important, that's why we do meditation, there's many other things that you would need to know besides just meditation to be able to make your way to enlightenment. There aren't any rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, prayer, things like this as part of the teachings of the Buddha. As I mentioned, that chant that we just did, that's to help ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. And during the lifetime of the Buddha, they used chanting as a way to commit the teachings to memory. Everything the Buddha taught was about helping you to cultivate the mind and develop the mind, training of the mind. And there's no rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, or prayer that's going to help you to be able to do that. So the Buddha is providing you the guidance to understand what's going on in the mind. So then he's providing you the tools and the techniques to be able to uproot certain pollutions out of the mind. And as you apply the tools and techniques that he taught, you can see the truth for yourself, that the mind is becoming more and more peaceful and more joyful. Your life is becoming more and more peaceful and more joyful, your relationships and things of this nature. By the time you uproot these pollutions out of the mind, you'll see that the mind's focused, that you have concentration, clarity, and deep memory, because your mind's now performing optimally, that you don't have these pollutions that are plaguing the mind. You'll notice that your personal, professional relationships are really blossoming, that you don't have any bitterness and harshness and hostility in your mind anymore. Right now, there's probably a certain amount of bitterness and harshness and hostility in your mind. And you might be blaming that on other people, but it's actually coming from your own mind. You can actually uproot this and get rid of it. You don't have to keep walking around with this in your mind, and it's damaging your relationships. As you're being bitter and harsh and hostile to others, it's just coming back to you. So by the time you purify your mind and you don't have that bitterness and hostility in your mind anymore, you can function in relationships very differently. And this is why your personal, professional relationships will really blossom as you're making your way towards enlightenment. You'll notice that you'll get to a point where you don't even have a bad mood, that it's physically impossible for an enlightened being to experience a bad mood. So I'm going to share with you these three poisons, or these three unwholesome roots, because this is what's really plaguing the mind and keeping it in the unenlightened state. I'm going to help you to understand what these are and the symptoms of them, and then how to actually uproot them and eliminate them out of the mind. But as I'm sharing with you today, it's important that you don't believe anything that I share. There's nothing in the teachings of the Buddha that is based in belief. With belief, you don't know what's true or false. You're just believing it because someone convinced you to believe it, or you convinced yourself to believe it. In order to get to enlightenment, you need to cultivate wisdom. And in order to get to wisdom, you need to be able to learn, investigate, and examine something. You need to be able to reflect on it to independently verify if it's true or false. And you need to be able to practice it, making decisions through that intellectual understanding that you gain. And now as you're making decisions through that intellectual understanding, you can see the truth for yourself, that things are working. And now that's cultivating wisdom. So as I share with you, you're going to hear me talk about various symptoms about these pollutions. I'm going to explain to you what the pollution is, but then I'm going to share with you certain symptoms that you experience because of this. And this is going to be your independent verification that your mind actually has these pollutions. Because I've never met many of you guys ever before, but I'm going to be describing things for you that you're experiencing in your day-to-day life and helping you to be able to see how these pollutions are actually causing these things. But then I'm going to focus mostly on the solutions and how to uproot these out of the mind. When we talk about the solutions, I'm going to talk about very targeted solutions. But the overall solution that the Buddha shared is something called the Eightfold Path. This is the core central teaching of the Buddha that everything else plugs into. So what I'm sharing today in terms of solutions, it plugs into this overall structure of the Eightfold Path. This is a core central teaching of the Buddha. I shared this yesterday as part of this course. I walked students through this over a 2.5-hour period of time, where I gradually helped them to be able to see through the words of the Buddha how to actually train the mind to get to this enlightened mental state. That's what you would need to learn. What I'm going to share with you today, if you only learned this, you wouldn't be able to make your way to enlightenment. There's other things that you need besides just what I'm sharing with you today. But I'm going to really target the three poisons, help you understand what those are, the symptoms of them, and how to actually eliminate them from the mind. But just understand that this is connected to a central teaching called the Eightfold Path that you would like to be able to learn with the original words of the Buddha. And if you'd like to learn that, this has been taught many times. I have books, audiobooks, videos, podcasts. There's other courses and retreats where I share that. You can even get personal guidance. And all of this is available for you at no cost. There's never a time where you're going to need to pay any money or anything like that. There's no expectation of you whatsoever. Everything's available for you to be able to help you make your way to this enlightened mental state. So I'm going to be pausing a few times as I'm talking this morning and opening up to questions, because it's unlikely that you're just going to learn something and then immediately understand it. You might have questions that you need to get clarity. And as you do, you can ask questions whether you're here at the temple or you're online. If you're here at the temple and you'd like to ask questions, we have microphones in the middle of the room in the white bowl. All you need to do is come get a microphone, take it back to your seat. If you press the gray button, you're going to see the lights come on, and then just hold it up to your chin and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online as well. If you speak here without a microphone, they won't be able to hear you online. And then you can keep these microphones with you, because you might have more than one question, or someone around you might have a question, and you can just share the microphone with them. And then if you're not using the microphone, if you could turn it off, that way we won't get feedback through the speakers. And then for anybody who's online, if you guys would like to ask questions, you can put that into the comment section in Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, and I'll be able to see that. Or if you're in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand, unmute your microphone, and then ask any and all questions that you like that way. So just to get us started, I'm going to help you to understand what the three poisons are kind of from a high level. So they're called the three poisons or the three unwholesome roots or the three fires. They're also known as defilements or pollutions or taints. This is the way people refer to them. And this is what's keeping the mind in the unenlightened state, describing this from a high level, where if you go into detail into the teachings of the Buddha, he has a deeper level of detail when he talks about the pollutions of the mind, and it's referred to as the 10 fetters. What a fetter is during the lifetime of the Buddha, if you were someone that they were trying to keep confined to a certain area, like a prisoner or a criminal, they would attach a fetter to your ankle. This was a shackle and a chain and a ball, and then they would just keep you in a field, and this would keep you confined to that certain area. Where today we put prisoners in jail cells or prison cells, where during the lifetime of the Buddha, they would attach this fetter to your ankle. It was a shackle and a chain and a ball. So when the Buddha discovered these 10 individual pollutions in the mind, he refers to them as the 10 fetters, because it's keeping the mind trapped in this unenlightened state. And just like a prisoner, if they release this shackle off of their ankle, they're now free. The same thing is true about the human mind, that if you release and eliminate these fetters out of the mind is now free. Because as long as you're experiencing anger and stress and anxiety and guilt and shame and fear and things like this, your mind's not free. It's bound up, continuing to experience these discontent feelings over and over and over again. So this here, the three poisons or three unwholesome roots or three fires, it does help you to understand why the mind is experiencing what it's experiencing in the unenlightened state, but it's the 10 fetters that gives you the deepest level of detail. And that's something that you would learn at different times in your journey to enlightenment. There's various courses and retreats and resources through books and videos and things like this that I share more details on what these 10 fetters are. But it also helps you to understand this at a high level too, and talking about it as the three poisons or the three unwholesome roots or the three fires. It's these poisons or these pollutions, these unwholesome roots that actually lead to all the unwholesome things that you experience in your day-to-day life. When you're experiencing certain unwholesome things coming back to you in your day-to-day life, you might be blaming this on good luck or bad luck or destiny or fate or some being called God that's maybe people think is controlling you, or some entity called the universe that is determining what you experience on a day-to-day basis. Or sometimes people blame it on other people. It's not other people that are determining what it is that you experience in your day-to-day life. It's not good luck or bad luck. It's not destiny or fate. It's not God or some entity called the universe that determines what you experience. And it's not other people. It's your own decisions that are leading to any particular result that you're experiencing in your day-to-day life. This is referred to as karma. You might have heard the word karma being used. The word karma is from the Sanskrit language, where the word karma is from the Pali language. The original teachings of the Buddha are in the Pali language, so people who study those will tend to use the Pali word of karma. If this translated to just one English word, I would use that word because it'd be easier for everyone, but it doesn't. So I need to use this word karma. What it means is cause and effect, or action and result, the results of your decisions. It's nothing mystical or magical. It's not about punishments and rewards. It's not about who's at fault or who's to blame. There's no being who's overseeing this natural law determining who gets what. It's our own decisions that lead to any particular result that we experience. It's like a sequence of events that whenever we make decisions wisely, we experience wholesome karma, or wholesome results. And when we make decisions unwisely, we experience unwholesome karma, or unwholesome results. So it's our own decisions that are leading to any particular result that we experience. But oftentimes the mind in the unenlightened state lacks wisdom of the ability to be able to see this. So I invite you to be able to ask yourself these questions, to be able to see that what you're experiencing in day-to-day life is from your own decisions. Because remember, you're not interested in believing anything. Don't believe others, but don't believe me either, right? So ask yourself these questions. Who chose to sit in the location where you're sitting right now? Who chose the clothing that you're wearing right now? Who chose the hairstyle that you have? Who chose whether or not you ate breakfast this morning? Who chose where you live? Who chose the job or occupation that you have? Who chose the friends that you spend time with? We could go on and on and on here. As you answer these questions, you can see that it's you that's making these decisions. And when you make these decisions wisely, you will experience wholesome karma or wholesome results. But when you make decisions unwisely, you will experience unwholesome karma or unwholesome results. And when you have these unwholesome roots in the mind of craving, anger, and ignorance, you will tend to make unwise decisions, and it's going to produce unwholesome results for you. And as you're experiencing those unwholesome results, what the mind's ego does, this ego, this arrogance, this pride, thinking I'm right and everybody else is wrong, the mind tends to blame what it experiences on other people. So by you investigating this and you being able to examine it and see for yourself that your mind has these three pollutions or these three unwholesome roots, you can see the source of your unwise decisions and how it's producing unwholesome results in your day-to-day life. And then you can apply the tools and the techniques and you can uproot these out of the mind. And as you do so, you'll see more and more wholesome decisions that you're making, more and more wise decisions. And this is how your life improves, because you clean up your mind and now you experience more and more peacefulness and more joy because you're making wiser and wiser decisions, leading to more and more wholesome results. As we grew up as children, we learned how to clean this body. Our parents typically taught us that. But there's this other part to this being, which is the mind. And if you didn't learn how to clean the mind growing up, if you don't have that wisdom, then you're walking around not having a clean mind. So if we walked around for several days or weeks or months or even years not cleaning our body, you'd feel very uncomfortable. So if we haven't been cleaning our mind, this is the reason why an individual experiences uncomfortableness, the stress, the anxiety, the frustration, agitation, and all these other discontent feelings. So what the Buddha is going to be able to teach you is how to clean your mind. He's going to help you to have that wisdom of how to do that. And then you don't believe that. You learn it, examine it, investigate it. You reflect on it to verify if it's true or false, and then you practice it. And as you're practicing it, you'll see the condition of your mind in your life improving. And you'll know with 100% certainty that these teachings and these practices are leading to improvement in your day-to-day life. So these unwholesome roots are going to produce unwholesome results. That's what you're going to be experiencing in day-to-day life when you have these pollutions in the mind. As I mentioned, it's the 10 fetters that is the much more detailed description of what you're experiencing in terms of these pollutions, but it helps you to understand these at a high level. There's also wholesome roots. That's what you're doing, is you're eliminating the unwholesome roots and you're bringing in the wholesome roots as part of your journey to enlightenment. And as you bring more and more of these wholesome roots into the mind, you start making decisions through those wholesome roots, and that's what leads to wholesome karma or wholesome results, because you're now making decisions through the wholesome roots. So I'm going to teach you those as part of our talk today as well, because that's what leads to the wholesome karma. So first, let me just explain these three poisons or these three unwholesome roots or these three fires from a high level. Then I'm going to go into each one of them in detail and explain to you the solutions. So we refer to these as craving, anger, and ignorance, but you'll hear other people refer to them in other ways. You might have heard of greed, hatred, and delusion. Or some people say desire, ill will, and confusion. It really depends on the teacher what words they use. I found that craving, anger, and ignorance usually helps people to understand this the best. So what this craving is, this is the mind's desire, the longing, the yearning, the wanting and expecting things to be a certain way. What the mind does in the unenlightened state is it chases after things. It longs and yearns. It thinks that the next new shiny object waiting around the corner is going to provide some kind of lasting satisfaction. So it chases and chases and chases. It's almost like an unquenchable thirst that the mind has, thinking that something external is going to provide some kind of lasting satisfaction. So it will chase it and chase it and chase it and chase it. And if the mind gets what it wants, what it expects, it experiences pleasant feelings like happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, euphoria. But if the mind doesn't get what it wants, it gets painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, and others. This is the mind craving permanence and wanting things to be a certain way permanently. And it can only be happy when it gets what it wants. So the mind is seeking satisfaction externally, thinking that next new shiny object is going to provide lasting satisfaction. So the mind pulls in the direction of the objects of its affection, and it can only be happy when it gets what it wants. And then if it doesn't get what it wants, it gets these painful feelings. And because the mind lives in an impermanent world, you can't always get what you want. So when that anger is arising, the mind feels uncomfortable with that anger, that frustration, that bitterness, and that hostility. It's very painful for the mind to experience this. And what the individual will typically do is they'll become unskillful, is they'll push away their friends or family. You might have done this before, where you firmly believe that this person was causing you to experience those painful feelings, and you might have pushed these people away. This is called aversion. This doesn't actually solve your problem, because you can see you still get angry, you still get frustrated, you still get agitated. If this person was the true cause of your problem, when you push them out of your life, you would be peaceful and joyful from that point forward, because you just found your problem and you've solved it by pushing them out of your life. But when you push them out of your life, you can see you still get angry, you still get annoyed or frustrated. Or the second thing an individual will do when they don't understand that it's truly craving that is causing their anger is they'll become bitter and harsh and hostile towards people through their intentions, their speech, and their actions. It's almost like an animal growling and roaring at another animal. It's almost trying to fear this being into doing things your way, because the mind's trying to get its cravings fulfilled. And it thinks, if I can just get this person to do things my way, then I'll feel happy. So the mind might be bitter and harsh and hostile towards people, especially people you're close to, like maybe your parents or your brothers and sisters, your life partner, maybe your children, people like this. And then the third thing an individual will do when they don't understand that it's craving, desire, attachment, this longing, yearning, chasing after the object of its affection that's causing the discontent feelings, is an individual might put expectations on someone and try to control them or force them or pressure them into doing things their way. And as long as the mind's doing this, you can't live harmoniously with all people, because it's only a matter of time before you encounter someone who doesn't do things your way. Because of impermanence, not everybody does things the same way. People do things differently. But with the mind's craving for permanence, it wants everybody to do things the same way. And the way that the mind's ego works is, my way is the right way, everybody else's way is the wrong way, and everybody should do it my way, right? So this is the mind craving permanence while you live in an impermanent world. So as long as you're pushing people away or pushing a situation away, being bitter, harsh, and hostile to people, or putting your expectations on people and trying to pressure them to do things your way, you can't live harmoniously with all beings. And you might actually have people doing this to you too. People might be pushing you away. People might be bitter and harsh and hostile to you, or people might be putting their expectations on you. And where all of this is coming from is the third poison, or the third unwholesome root. It's referred to as ignorance. This is the way a lot of people refer to it. And I just use that because other teachers use that in case you've studied other places. But the Buddha wouldn't have used this word, because this is a derogatory word. This is a degrading and diminishing word. I would never refer to somebody as ignorant. Instead, a better way to think about this is the unknowing of true reality, the lack of wisdom, confusion, misunderstanding, that the mind just doesn't understand what it doesn't understand. In the unenlightened state, there's a certain lack of wisdom. There's a certain amount of confusion or misunderstanding that the mind has. It doesn't really understand the way the world truly works. It doesn't understand the natural laws of existence. It doesn't understand this cause and effect relationship between the decisions that you make and the results that you experience. So because of the mind's lack of wisdom, it continues to crave and it continues to have this anger. Because of the mind's lack of wisdom, it will firmly believe that it's other people who are causing you to experience discontent feelings. So while we call it craving, anger, and ignorance, it's really because of ignorance that craving and anger continues in the mind. It's because of this misunderstanding, this lack of wisdom, this confusion, that an individual will continue to crave and they will continue to have anger. And that's why there's nothing on the path to enlightenment that is about belief. Because in order to get rid of this ignorance or this unknowing of true reality, you need to cultivate wisdom. And when you cultivate wisdom, you understand how the world truly works, and you can eliminate your cravings, your longing, yearning, your chasing after the objects of your affection, and you can come to the middle where you can pursue things as a goal, objective, or interest, gradually pursuing things in that way without forming your feelings on whether you accomplish that thing or not. And therefore, if you eliminate those, you eliminate your anger as well, where you can be peaceful and joyful permanently. But as long as you have this ignorance in the mind, this lack of wisdom, the mind will continue to crave, sometimes getting what it wants and it'll be happy, and sometimes it won't get what it wants and it gets angry and frustrated. And then when that anger is arising, the mind's going to push away, be bitter, harsh, and hostile, or put expectations on people. And now it's only a matter of time, if you spend enough time with somebody, that they're not going to do things your way, and that's where an individual has difficulties and struggles. And that's why the people you spend the most time with, the people you're closest to, like your parents, your siblings, your life partner, your children, you have the most difficulties in those situations because you're seeing things that they're not doing in the way that you want them to do it. So this is a little bit of a high level understanding of what craving, anger, and ignorance is in the mind. And you don't need to feel guilty or shameful that your mind has these, because every being who's ever been born had these. The Buddha had them, right? And that's the way he was able to discover that his mind was unenlightened and that he needed to experience this enlightenment. And he figured out what was going on in the mind, and he figured out the tools and the techniques of how to eliminate them. So that's what I'm going to do now. Is I'm going to focus a little bit more, explaining a little bit more about what each one of these are, but then I'm going to focus on the solutions, helping you to understand how to solve this. So talking a little bit more about this craving, this desire, this longing, this yearning, this attachment, these wants and expectations that the mind has. There's this outward seeking that the mind has. It's chasing after the objects of its affection. It's kind of like the mind thinks, I don't feel good. Like, what do I need to feel better? How can I feel better? I feel all this ickiness in the mind. What's going to make my mind better? Oh, I know what I'll do. I'll get a boyfriend or girlfriend. That'll fix everything. Let me get one of those. So the mind will kind of chase after a boyfriend or girlfriend for a while. And then you'll get it and you'll be really happy about that you got a boyfriend or girlfriend in your life. But then over time, you start getting angry and frustrated and you guys break up. And then you might say, oh, what do I need to feel better? Oh, I need more money. That'll fix everything. Let me get some money. So the mind will chase after some money for a while. And then you'll get the money and then you'll be happy for a little while. But then that'll fade away too. And then you're like, oh, I know what I need. A new house. Let me get a new house. That'll fix everything. And now you might chase after a house or a car or something like that. But then eventually the mind might say, oh, I know what I need. I know what'll fix everything. Let me go to Thailand. That'll fix everything. Let me go to Thailand. They have massages and mango and sticky rice. That'll fix everything. So now you might chase after that. You might be so excited to go to Thailand, right? And then you'll feel great about being in Thailand. You'll have a great time. But then you got to go back home, right? And the mind's kind of frustrated about that, right? So this happiness is only temporary because the mind can only get what it wants on a temporary basis because nothing in the world is permanent. So here's another way to think about it. Think if you bought a brand new car and you were so excited about this brand new car, right? And now you drove this brand new car to the store and you parked it and you went inside and you came out and there was a scratch on your car. You might be so frustrated or angry, thinking that the person who scratched your car is the one who's causing your frustration or anger. It's not the person who scratched your car that is causing that frustration or anger. It's the mind's craving for permanence, wanting things to be permanent, when in reality, this car is not permanent. Now, we're not talking about what's wise or unwise, because obviously when we walk through a parking lot, we aspire not to scratch anybody's car, right? But what we're talking about is what is the true reality of why this frustration and anger is coming into the mind? Well, the mind, if it's craving permanence and it's craving this car to look permanently beautiful, when you see that scratch, you'll be frustrated and angry because you're not getting what you want, which is this car to look permanently beautiful. And the fact is that this car is going to change because it's impermanent. The paint's going to fade. The tires are going to need to be changed. The upholstery is going to get ripped and torn. It's only a matter of time before something occurs with this car. But if you crave permanence with this brand new car, when you see that scratch, you'll get frustrated or angry or some other discontent feeling. You can see this if you've been in a relationship with a boyfriend or girlfriend. Maybe you guys came together. You were so happy and so excited when you guys first got together. But then over time, this relationship started to deteriorate, and now you guys broke up. And when you broke up, you might have been angry or frustrated. You might have been lonely or bored, or you might have been missing this person. This is the mind holding on and craving permanence. Oftentimes people think it's their love or their care that's causing this. But this is the mind craving permanence, wanting this person to be in your life permanently, where when they were in your life, you had a certain level of comfort and you liked that. But then when you broke up, the mind didn't like that. So one of the ways to say this is that the mind craves permanence, but another way to say it is that the mind doesn't like impermanence. It doesn't like change when things are changing, right? You can look at this if you've had someone close to you that's died, maybe grandma or grandpa or mom or dad or brothers or sisters. As long as they were alive, the mind was getting what it wanted. So there was a certain amount of happiness there. But then when they died, the mind wasn't getting what it wanted, and you might have grieved or had sorrow or sadness. Again, you're not a bad person if this happened. You haven't done anything wrong. It's just what the mind does is it craves permanence, when in reality, the world around you is impermanent. It's constantly changing. Because grandma and grandpa were born, they have to die, right? Every single one of us, we're going to all die at some point. We are not permanent. But the mind will crave permanence. This is why when people get really close to death, it's sometimes very painful for them because they're holding on, craving permanence. So you can see this in your life if you take a moment and you look at a recent situation where you've been angry or sad or frustrated or something like this. Because remember, you're not interested in believing what I'm sharing with you. What I'm sharing with you is that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. But you need to be able to see it for yourself. Don't believe me and don't believe anybody else. Look at your life. Look at a recent time where you've been angry or frustrated or sad. Maybe this morning or yesterday or last week, there was something that happened where you were irritated and annoyed or something like this. Look at that situation with these fresh eyes. What was it that you wanted? What were you longing, yearning for? What were you expecting? And if you would have gotten it, you would have been happy. But because you didn't get it, you were angry or frustrated or sad or some other discontent feeling. I'll use the example of coming to Thailand to maybe help you see this a little bit more. If you were so excited to go to Thailand and you just couldn't wait to get here, and you showed up to the airport and your flight was delayed, you might have been frustrated or angry or irritated about that. That's because the mind craves permanence. I want every single airplane to take off on time, right? Especially the ones I'm on, right? That's what the mind does, right? But this plane, it can't take off on time every single time because that would be permanence. There's going to be weather issues. There's going to be maintenance issues with the airplane. There's going to be crew issues where people don't show up for work or something like this. This is all impermanence, right? So if you showed up to the airport with all this excitement and your flight was delayed, now you're going to be frustrated or agitated or annoyed. It's not the airline company that's causing that. It's the mind craving permanence, not understanding that you live in an impermanent world where things are temporary and constantly changing. Okay, so this is more of the problem, but you need to be able to see it for yourself, and that's why I invite you to peer into your own life. Because what the mind's going to tend to do is it's going to want to blame other people. Because when you got angry yesterday or a week ago or wherever that was, you were probably trying to blame somebody else. But it was your own mind that was causing that. It doesn't mean the other person wasn't doing something unwise, because they surely could have been doing something unwise, but that's not what was causing your anger. It was your mind craving for everyone to do it a certain way. Okay, well, there's a solution for this, because with the mind holding on and craving permanence, there's two things that the Buddha teaches that really targets it. Where overall, it's the Eightfold Path, which I was talking about at the beginning. You would like to learn and practice the Eightfold Path. This is what's going to train your mind to get rid of craving, desire, attachment. But there's two things that are really targeting it. It's breathing mindfulness meditation and the practice of generosity. Because what the mind's doing with this craving, desire, attachment is it's holding on really tightly. And what you're trying to do is train the mind to let go, to let go, to let go. That's what the breathing mindfulness meditation was doing. When we were focused on the breath and your mind moved off the breath, When you notice that movement, that's your mindfulness. That's your awareness of mind. And when you let go, that was training your mind to let go. And now you could come back to the breath. So if you had to let go 10, 15, 20, 30 times during the meditation, this was actually really good for your mind because your mind doesn't know how to let go. So what this meditation is it's kind of like exercising the mind. It's like taking your mind to the gym where you're exercising it and training it to let go, to let go, to let go. So if you had thoughts during meditation, that's normal. The goal of this meditation isn't to eliminate your thoughts. It's to notice them sooner and sooner and let them go easier and easier. So you might have had a lot of thoughts during your meditation, but even an enlightened being has thoughts during their meditation. The difference is that an unenlightened being, they'll have rapid thoughts. It'll be like thought, 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 thought. Or you'll have a thought, you'll look at it, you'll play with it, you'll indulge in it. You'll be like 2 or 3 minutes down the road and you're like, oh yeah, I'm meditating. Let me bring my mind back, right? But the difference is an enlightened being, they'll have a thought, they'll notice it right away, they'll cut it off, let it go, and come back to the breath. And then there'll be this quietness and this stillness in between their thoughts. So you'll always have thoughts. You need those thoughts. So in the meditation, you're cutting off anything and everything that's coming up so you can train your mind to let go. Then in your day-to-day life, you're only cutting off the unwholesome thoughts, right? So if you have a wholesome thought in your day-to-day life, go forward, right? You're thinking about calling up your mom, maybe inviting her to lunch or dinner. Go forward. You don't have to cut that off in your day-to-day life, right? But if it comes up during your meditation because you're training your mind, you would like to cut off anything and everything that's coming up because you're exercising the mind. So in day-to-day life, if you're thinking about calling up your mom to take her out to lunch, go forward if that's what you would like to do. But if you have an unwholesome thought, you'd like to cut that off and let it go. Maybe you're thinking about punching your boss in the face, right? Cut that off, let it go. It's not going to produce any wholesome results whatsoever, right? That's an unwholesome thought. It's going to cause harm to this person, and now harm's going to come to you, right? So that's the breathing mindfulness meditation. You'd like to gradually build that up slowly over time so that you can be practicing this regularly. In the class that I teach, the programs that I teach you all the ins and outs of this meditation. Then there's a practice of generosity. Generosity is giving and sharing more than is strictly required in any given situation without any expectation of anything in return, such as your time, effort, energy, and resources. This is also training your mind to let go, right? Because what the mind does with its craving, desire, attachment is it holds on. So it tends to be selfish. It doesn't want to share with others. So if an individual spends 3 hours doing this, they want this in return. Or if I spend 3 days doing that, I want this in return. You might need to do that to a certain degree, right? With your job and your occupation, because you need to sustain your life and there's basic necessities that you need in order to be able to live your life. But you'd also like to be practicing generosity, where you're giving and sharing more than is strictly required in any given situation without any expectation of anything in return, such as your time, effort, energy, and resources. This is training your mind to let go. And you can integrate this into your life and make it really easy for you, where it doesn't have to take 5 hours in order to practice generosity. Like say you're walking into a store and you see there's some people behind you. You could hold the door for that person, right? And let them go in. But you need to be careful. You need to do this without any expectation of anything in return. Because if you're standing there with an expectation that they will say thank you and they don't say thank you, you'll be frustrated or angry, right? Because that's your expectation. That's your craving for permanence. I want everybody who walks through this door to say thank you. You still want something from this person. Now, maybe when you walk through the door, you say thank you, right? But not everybody will, because of impermanence. Some people won't even see you standing there. They will be so caught up in what it is they want out of that store, they won't even see you standing there. Or they might even see you standing there and look you right in the face, and they don't even say thank you, right? That's just the way that they're doing things on that particular day. But if you're standing there with an expectation, that craving, that desire, and you don't get what you want, you'll be frustrated or annoyed. So if you're practicing pure generosity, it needs to be without any expectation of anything in return. And you can do this in places like, say you're going to the market and you're buying some mangoes. Make it easy for yourself. Toss some bananas into the bag. Give them out to your neighbor, right? You're going to buy yourself a chocolate bar at 7-Eleven. Buy a second or a third one, right? It takes you extra few seconds to bring that with you. And now you don't even know who you're going to give it to. But at some point in your day, you'll see somebody and you might give them a chocolate bar, right? This is you practicing generosity. If you're noticing you have discontentedness with any particular situation, if you practice generosity with that situation, it'll really help you to train your mind to let go. What I mean by this is, let's just say you take your clothes out of the washing machine and you see they're ripped and torn and you get frustrated by this. This is your mind craving permanence. Right? Your mind wants this permanence, not realizing your clothes are impermanent. They're going to get ripped and torn. Well, you can see here that your mind is attached to your clothes. You're craving permanence with your clothing. So when you see that, if you start sharing your clothing, start giving it away to some people, this will actually help you to train your mind to let go, so you don't crave this permanence with your clothing. If you notice, when your bank account balance is up here, you're really happy. And when it goes down here, you're frustrated or sad. You can see you're attached to your money, because all that's happened here is change. That's all that's happened is change. So when you see that, you need to share your money with some people, right? Maybe buy some people some food, or, you see some people that are in need. Maybe you share a little bit of money. You would like to do this from the middle way. If you overextend yourself and you're sharing excessively, you're not going to have what you need for yourself. But if you never share, your mind's going to be quite selfish. So you need to come to the middle, where you're able to gradually share with people around you, not always wanting something and expecting something from other people. Just give and share without any expectation of anything in return. And you can do this with your time, your effort, your energy, and your resources. You can share with the people around you. So these are the two things that are really targeting this craving, because that's the underlying problem that's causing the mind to experience the anger and the frustration and all these other discontent feelings, even the guilt and the shame and the fear and all these other things. So if you're going to get rid of this, you're going to need to eliminate your longing, yearning, this craving for permanence. So do you guys have any questions here on this first poison, or this first pollution of mind, this first unwholesome root? Remember, we have the microphones here, and then online you can put this into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. Yes, ma'am. We have microphones right here.
Okay. Hello. Thank you. Can you just talk a little bit more about this context about shame?
About shame? Yeah, so depending on the situation, it's always going to be craving, desire, attachment, but it depends on what craving you have. So if you have like a specific situation, you can describe it if you like, and I can help you peer into it to be able to see what are the specific cravings, because that's what you'd ultimately like to get to, is to be able to understand what are the specific cravings. So there's usually more than one where you can have shame. Maybe I'll just create one in case you don't feel comfortable sharing your personal situation, but you're always welcome to come talk to me privately and I can help you. Let's just say somebody feels shame that their mom and dad are sick and they feel like they didn't take care of their parents well enough and now they're sick, right? Well, this is the mind craving permanence, thinking that mom and dad should be permanently healthy. They can't be permanently healthy. Doesn't matter. They're going to get sickness, aging, and they're going to experience death. And while we can aspire to take care of our parents, if that's what we choose to do, we're not required to, but we could, if that's what we choose to do, that would be our generosity to help them. We can't solve every single thing that they have going on in their life. They're responsible for their life. So because of this craving for our parents to be permanently healthy, maybe we have a craving or an expectation we're putting on ourselves to take care of our parents. Now when they're sick, someone can feel shameful that this has happened, or guilty that this has happened. It's still the same underlying cause, the same underlying condition. That's one of the beauties about the teachings of the Buddha, is that there isn't one meditation for stress, one meditation for anxiety, one meditation for guilt, one meditation for shame, one meditation for fear, because it's all the same underlying cause, which is this craving, this longing, this yearning, this craving for permanence. Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Can there be wholesome wants, like wanting to contribute to making the world a more peaceful place, for example?
So when you understand what craving, desire, attachment is, there's wants and expectations, you understand that there isn't any wholesome one, because what this is this is the mind's longing, yearning, chasing after the objects of your affection, forming your inner feelings based on whether you get that thing or not. What you can do is you can bring the mind to the middle where you're pursuing a certain goal or an objective or an interest through wise decision making. And that might be something that someone chooses to do with something like this, where if they're interested in helping people, like I'm interested in helping people obviously here, but I'm not doing it with craving. I'm not longing, yearning. So that's why, for example, if people choose to get up and leave, I'm not upset. I'm not angry. I'm not shaken up by that, because maybe they're hungry. Maybe they have some other plan. Maybe they were only planning to be here for 30 minutes and now they've been here for maybe an hour, and that's already longer than they had planned, right? And now they're choosing to leave. That's just impermanence. People are going to come and go. But if I tried to help people with a craving, then when people left, I would be upset or angry or frustrated. And now you can't actually truly help people because you yourself haven't gotten the help that you need, right? So when you do things from the middle way, you can do it as a goal, objective, or interest, and you can maintain your peace and maintain your joy. And you'll actually be more helpful in that situation. So we're not talking about the object itself. So the idea of helping people, someone could do that with a craving, desire, attachment, and then they're going to be angry and frustrated and bitter and resentful when they're not able to do what they were interested to do. But you can also do it from the middle way, where you're just pursuing it as a goal, objective, or interest, and you're not forming your feelings based on it. But people need to understand this word goal, because sometimes people will say, I have this goal to do this thing. And then if they accomplish that goal, they'll be happy. And if they don't accomplish that goal, they'll be angry or frustrated. That's not actually a true goal. That's a craving, desire, attachment. That's a want or expectation masquerading as a goal. A true goal is something that you can work your way towards, and you can maintain your happiness whether you accomplish it or not, because you're just making wise decisions towards that goal. So if you're 80% of the way towards your goal, you can look at it and say, okay, well, what do I need to do here? I can maybe extend my timeline, give myself more time to accomplish this, or I could add more resources, giving myself more ability to accomplish this goal. Or you know what? 80% is fine. I don't need to go any further. This is just fine, right? And now you can maintain your happiness. But if it's a craving, desire, attachment, you wouldn't be able to do that. So a true goal is something that you're working towards with wise decision making. So this could be a potential goal that someone works towards helping other people, but they need to be sure they're doing it that way, because otherwise they're going to be angry and frustrated and bitter, and they're not actually going to truly be able to help people, because they're not going to be able to make wise decisions. That's why the Buddha is teaching you to get to this peaceful and joyful mental state, because as long as your mind's shaken up, it's unsteady, it's uncalm, you'll make unwise decisions and you'll experience unwholesome results in your day-to-day life. So if you're interested in helping people, you would like to do that from the middle way. And there's wise decisions that you can do there, restraining your mind, not allowing it to long and yearn. So it's not the whether you help people or not, it's what's going on in your mind and how you pursue it. Yeah, you're welcome. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, thank you. I want to ask a question that like when your family or someone close to you, they have this greed and expectation on you, how should you handle that from the other people?
The best thing you can do is not adopt their expectations as your expectations of yourself, because people will constantly be trying to put expectations on you and trying to tell you how you should be. And now if you adopt that in your own mind, now you're forming that attachment, you're forming that expectation in your mind, and you can only be happy if you do things that way, where this other person, they're trying to force you and pressure you to do things their way. I learned this very early in life. There was a period of time when I was 17 years old, and my family came to me and they said, David, you're spending a lot of time with your guy friends. You need to get a girlfriend. You're spending way too much time with your guy friends. I thought about it for a couple months and I was like, all right, well, I'm going to go get a girlfriend. So I went and got a girlfriend, and then I was spending time with this girlfriend. And my family came to me and they said, David, you're spending too much time with your girlfriend. You need to spend more time with us. I was like, you can't make these people happy, right? So what I had done initially is I adopted their expectation on myself and I went and got a girlfriend, right? But then the second time I saw the truth that, hey, this was me adopting their expectation And I wasn't interested in doing that any longer. And that's where you need to make decisions for yourself. Don't allow people's expectations of you to become your expectations of yourself, because then you'll only be happy if you're meeting those expectations. And if you have enough people in your life, these people are telling you to do it one way, these people are telling you to do it another way, these people are telling you to do it another way. The next thing you know, you're all confused about what you should or shouldn't be doing in the world. So you need to just focus on your own life. Mom and dad, they have their life. They get to make decisions on their life. Brothers and sisters, they have their own life. They get to make decisions on their life. Life partner, same thing. They all get to make decisions for their own life. You make decisions for your life. And while you might be open to what people are sharing with you, don't allow your mind to adopt an expectation from another person, because that's what they're going to try to do, is put their expectations on you, because they think the way for them to get to happiness is to get you to do things their way. And that's what they're trying to do. They're having craving, desire, attachment, wants, and expectations. And they don't realize that you're not the one that's going to make them happy. They need to find their happiness within, not from you. Okay, so let's go to this next one. I don't see any other questions online or here at the temple. Let's go to this next one, because when there's craving in the mind, as I shared, there's going to be this happiness, there's going to be these pleasant feelings, this excitement, this elation when the mind's getting what it wants, when its cravings are getting fulfilled. When we got chocolate and ice cream, we were very happy with our parents. We thought they were the best parents ever. But at some point, we didn't get the chocolate and ice cream from our parents, and we were very angry, and we thought they were the worst parents ever, right? That anger that was arising, that was from the mind's craving. It was craving permanence. It wanted chocolate and ice cream, thinking that we should have chocolate and ice cream every single day. Why? Why can't we have chocolate and ice cream every day, right? That's what the mind was doing when we were a little kid. So when that craving isn't getting fulfilled, that's when the painful feelings are arising, and now those painful feelings are typically attributed to something external. The mind's going to firmly believe that it's something external that's causing this. We're going to blame it on other people. That's what the unenlightened mind does. It might think it's good luck or bad luck or destiny or fate, or maybe it's God or some entity called the universe, or it's other people who are causing this. But it's not. It's your own mind. It's the craving, desire, attachment. So when this anger is arising, it feels uncomfortable. It feels very painful to experience it. And what the mind does is it will push people away, or it'll push the situation away. This is called aversion, like we were talking about earlier. Or it'll become bitter and harsh and hostile towards people through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. It's almost like an animal growling and roaring at another animal. We're not animals. We're human beings, right? And what the path to enlightenment is to become a better and better human being. So you don't need to function like an animal, growling and roaring at others. Or the third thing you might do is put your expectations on people and try to control people or pressure them to do things your way. And again, people might be doing this to you too, right? So you need to be able to understand that this anger is coming from your own mind, the bitterness, the harshness, the hostility. And as long as you put that out, it's going to come back to you. You can look at the relationships where you're experiencing bitterness and harshness and hostility. You can see that you're doing the exact same thing in those relationships. But if you clean up your mind, you can actually solve this. Because what we tend to do in these relationships that you have struggles and difficulties in is we tend to think the way to solve it is to change the other person. That might be what you've been doing, is trying to change other people. Change your parents or your brothers and sisters or boyfriends and girlfriends and people like this. If you keep trying to change other people, you will never solve your problem, because this is the mind trying to get its cravings fulfilled, thinking that if I can just get these people to do things my way, everything will be perfect. But the problem with this approach is there's 8 billion people in the world. You can't train 8 billion people to do things your way. You'd have to have a massive training program, right? And you'd have to get everyone to agree that your way is the right way. And then you're going to need to propagate this training all throughout the world. That's a massive project. Or you could just train one mind. There's one mind you can train. And that's going to be challenging enough. So there's a way for you to get rid of this anger. Namely, you would like to work on the cravings, right? That's why you're working on the cravings, because that's the source of the anger. But you also need to work with the anger as well. And there's a technique called loving kindness meditation, where you essentially are rewiring the mind to be more loving and more kind. But then you're going to need to go out into the world and be loving and kind through your intention, speech, and actions. Because as long as you're bitter and harsh and hostile in your relationships, this is all going to come back to you. So this loving kindness meditation is different than what we just did this morning. And I do this about once a week. There's Sundays and Wednesdays and other classes where I teach loving kindness meditation, and I do it together. If you guys are going to be around this Sunday over in the main hall, I'll be doing loving kindness meditation at 6:30. So you're welcome to come for that. Also, next Wednesday, we'll be doing loving kindness meditation together as well. So you're welcome to come to any of these situations where I'm sharing the teachings, and you can learn this loving kindness meditation where you're essentially rewiring the mind. You're filling up your gas tank with loving kindness. And now you can go out into the world and be loving and kind through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. Because as long as you're bitter and harsh and hostile, it's all just going to keep coming back to you. It's kind of like me and my mom. When I was growing up, I had a lot of expectations for her that she didn't meet those expectations, right? And I was angry. I was really frustrated. So when me and mom would get together, it was like fireworks. It was only a matter of time before some fireworks went off. Mom would pick up the rubber ball of anger and she'd throw it around the room, and I'd pick up the rubber ball of anger and throw it around the room. And next thing you know, we're both angry and frustrated with each other. And I kept trying to change mom, and it didn't work, right? I needed to change my own mind. Me and mom were like in a log jam, and I needed to take out that log of anger, that log of hatred, that log of bitterness and resentment. I needed to take that out of my mind so that then things could flow. So now, prior to understanding this, when you're experiencing a certain thing in life and you have these cravings and it's not being done your way, as this anger is arising, you might go down this well-worn path of anger and bitterness and harshness and hostility. And this well-worn path has all the bushes and the stickers pushed back. But you know where this path leads. It leads to broken relationships. It leads to heartache and misery. As long as you continue to be bitter and harsh and hostile, that's where it's going to lead you. It's going to lead you to broken relationships. So what you're doing with this loving kindness meditation and being loving and kind in your day-to-day life is it's rewiring the mind. It's forging this new path. That's why it's challenging, that you need to get out your machete and you need to cut down the bushes and the stickers and create this new path for yourself, where now you can go down this path of loving kindness, where you have a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, where you have active goodwill towards all beings, where you can love all beings unconditionally, where you don't have to have any conditions met in order for you to have love and kindness towards this person. And this is the meditation that's going to help you to be able to do this. But then you're going to need to know how to go out into the world through your intention, speech, and actions, being loving and kind. And that's what I shared yesterday as part of the class of the Eightfold Path. I help students to be able to understand how to practice what we call right intention, right speech, right action, and right livelihood, to be able to go out into the world being loving and kind with the people around you based on these natural laws. If you do this enough, where you go down this path and you forge this new path of love and kindness, that you can be loving and kind with the people around you, this old path, it'll get overgrown. And your mind won't go down that path anymore, because it's not possible to go down that path. So by the time an individual gets to enlightenment, they fully cultivated their mind with loving kindness, where they can love all beings unconditionally, where they don't want or expect anything. They're not longing, yearning, trying to force and control people to do things your way. And this old path, you never go down that path. You've got this new path that you forged, which is this path of loving kindness. And this is where the real work is, right? Is learning how to be loving and kind. Because it's easy to sit here in a classroom and talk about being loving and kind and peaceful and joyful. But when you go out there, that's where the real work begins. And this loving kindness meditation, like I mentioned, it's like filling up your gas tank so that then you can go out into the world and be loving and kind with the people around you. So this is a different type of meditation than what you've learned today, but it's going to target this anger, this bitterness, this hostility, this resentment. Because as long as you're carrying that stuff around, it's just harming your own mind. Sometimes when you experience things in life, like maybe you've had a breakup with a boyfriend or girlfriend, you might be holding on to a grudge in your mind, some resentment or hostility, or maybe you're holding on to that towards your brothers and sisters or your parents or something like that. As long as you hold on to that resentment and hostility, it's just harming your own mind. Sometimes we think we're getting back at the other person by holding on to our grudge and our hostility and our resentment, but you're not. This is like holding on to a hot coal and trying to burn somebody else. So by you holding on to your resentment, your grudge, thinking you're getting back at the other person, you're just holding on to a hot coal, trying to burn somebody else with it. But you're the only one that's getting burned. So you can actually uproot this and eliminate it out of the mind through this loving kindness meditation and practicing loving kindness in your day-to-day life through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. You're going to need to know what love is, because oftentimes in the unenlightened state, people don't understand what love is. If you're falling in love with people and out of love with people, that's not love. That's craving, desire, attachment. If you have unconditional love, it's not possible to fall in love and out of love with people. What you might be experiencing is that you meet somebody, you get to know them for a little while, and then as you spend time with them, you don't really have any expectations. Like when you meet a new boyfriend or new girlfriend, you don't really have much expectations for them at the beginning of the relationship. And now after a few weeks or a few months, you might get to a point where you say to them, "I love you." And they say, "Oh my gosh, I love you too." Right? Oh, we're in love. Now we're in love. And now we function as we love each other. We go out to dinner. We go to the movies. You kiss, you hug, you might have sex, these kinds of things. Now we're in love, right? But then all these expectations come in. You start wanting them to do things a certain way. And they can't meet your expectations permanently. And they have certain expectations for you. And you can't meet their expectations permanently. And now you guys get angry and frustrated and irritated with each other and you break up. And now you say, "I have fallen out of love with you. I don't love you anymore," right? That wasn't love. There might have been love in there, but that's not the love. At the beginning, this person was meeting your expectations. They were doing things your way, but your expectations were very low. And you said, "Oh, I've fallen in love with you." And now over time, when your expectations grew, they weren't doing things your way any longer. And now you say, "I don't love you anymore," right? So this is actually the mind's selfishness. This is the mind's craving. As long as you do things my way, I will say I love you and I will function like I love you. But as soon as you stop doing things my way, I don't love you anymore. I can't act like I love you anymore because you're not doing things my way. You're not doing what I expect. That's not love. That's craving, desire, attachment. Again, there might be love in there, but it's polluted, it's tainted with this craving, desire, attachment. What true love is you love people unconditionally, that they don't have to meet any conditions in order for you to love them. Because love is a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. But if you have certain conditions that have to be met in order for you to have that love, that's actually not love. That's craving, desire, attachment. So oftentimes we grow up in households where our parents are putting expectations on us and we think that that's love. And our parents might think that that's love too, that they think that by trying to get us to do things their way, that that's love. But that's not the love. They probably have love in there, but it's being polluted with these cravings, desires, attachments. When you get the craving, desire, attachment out of the way, your true love can shine through more and more, where you don't want anything from people. You don't expect anything from people. You just have a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, understanding impermanence, that everybody's different and everybody's going to make decisions differently, that you can disagree with a person's choices and decisions while still loving the person. You got to separate these two things, right? Sometimes people can only love someone if they do things my way. Well, if you can only love people who do things your way, there's only one person in the world that does things your way 100% of the time. Do you know who that person is? Who's the person who does things your way 100% of the time? You, yourself, right? So if you can only love people who do things your way, there's only one person in the world that you can love. And sometimes you might even have trouble doing that, right? Loving yourself. right? So you need to be able to separate the choices and decisions that someone makes from the person themselves, where you understand you can disagree with this person's choices and decisions, understanding that they're going to make decisions differently than you while still loving the person themselves, meaning having a genuine interest in seeing them be well. I've never met any person that has agreed with 100% of what their parents have done in their life. Let me just take a survey here and see. Is there anybody here that has ever agreed with 100% of everything their parents have ever done? Anybody? Nobody? See? Because we've done things differently. Our parents do things differently than us. We do things differently than them. Our brothers and sisters do things differently. This is just impermanence. That's all that is. But sometimes what the mind does, because of its cravings, desires, attachments, it will say, I can only love you if you do things my way. Right? And now an individual will push this person away thinking, I have fallen out of love with you. No, all that's happened is this person's not meeting your expectations anymore, and your mind wants everybody to do things a certain way, and now you might be pushing people away. So if you separate the choices and decisions that people make, understanding that you will disagree with people's choices and decisions sometimes, and that's okay, you can still love the person. So you can disagree with mom and dad. You can disagree with brothers and sisters. You can think that they're doing things in a way differently than you, and you wouldn't choose to do it that way. But that doesn't make it right or wrong. It's just different. That's it. It's just impermanence. That's all it is. Your ego is going to tell you that your way is the right way and their way is the wrong way. But if you get rid of that and you understand that, no, this is just different. It's just impermanence. Now you can separate the choices and decisions, understanding those are going to be different, and that's okay. That's just impermanence. And now you can still love the person, where you can have a genuine interest in seeing them be well. And now you can learn how to love everybody around you. So I love you. I love you, right? I love you, meaning I would like to see you be well. I have a genuine interest in seeing you be well. I'm not responsible for your wellness, but I do have a genuine interest in seeing you be well. That's why I can come to the temple each day and I can share teachings with people, because I have an interest in seeing you be well. And I don't want anything from you, and I don't expect anything from you. I'm just interested in seeing you be well, right? So that's what it means to love someone, is you can disagree with their choices and decisions while still loving the person, having a genuine interest in seeing them be well. And then you can love everyone before you even meet them. So you're not falling in love with people and out of love with people. You're just choosing in your mind to be able to have love or a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. But when you have these cravings and expectations in your mind, you're going to find it hard to do that. That's why you'd like to eliminate those and eliminate your anger through these different techniques. So any questions here on the anger, the hatred, the ill will, the frustration, agitation, annoyance, even dislike? If you dislike people, it's actually coming from your own mind. Sometimes people think that this dislike is coming from other people, but you'll like people who do things your way, and you'll dislike people who don't do things your way. That's the craving, desire, attachment. That dislike's coming from your own mind. You can get to the point where you have love and kindness for everybody. Yes, ma'am.
Question: when anger comes from situations like we blame ourselves, like I didn't prepare well, I didn't work hard, things like that, because I think the relationship with ourselves is quite different from the situation with others. It's more complicated.
It's the same thing. It's craving, desire, attachment. You're putting an expectation on yourself that you should have been here, and now you are here. And now you're angry at that because you haven't met your expectation. It's still craving, desire, attachment that's producing it, but it's you putting it on yourself, right? Your mind is putting an expectation on this being that I should be here, when in reality, you're not there. So instead of craving, desiring, expecting that, just come to the middle where you're gradually making decisions towards a certain goal or objective. And where you're falling short of your goal or objective, just look at it and say, what do I need to do here? You know what? I probably should have went out Friday night. I was going out, having too much fun. I probably shouldn't have been at home studying, and then I would have been better at that exam on Monday morning, right? So you just look at your life, because there's certain decisions that you made that led to that situation of not performing well on that exam, for example. And now if you look at your weekend, you're like, okay, I could have prioritized studying here. Instead of putting an expectation on yourself and beating yourself up for wisdom that you didn't have yesterday, instead just look at what happened over the last few days and say, what could I have done differently here? What are the decisions that I could have made differently to make this better? And that's the beauty of understanding that everything you experience in life is based on your decisions. Because if there's anything that you don't particularly care for that's going on in your life, all you need to do is cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and you will experience different results. But if it's good luck or bad luck or destiny or fate or God or some entity called the universe, or if it's other people that are causing you to experience something, you can't fix anything. You can't solve anything because you're locked in, you're a robot, and that's not true, right? That's the mind's lack of wisdom that it has, this ignorance or unknowing of true reality. So all you need to do wherever you're falling short of where it is that you would like to be, instead of putting an expectation on yourself and blaming yourself and feeling miserable about that, just have a certain goal and just understand you're a work in progress. You're not a perfect being. You're in a work in progress and you're working towards that, and just figure out what are the sequence of decisions that I need to make in order to get there. Because that's what the natural law of karma is showing you, is that there's a sequence of decisions that are going to lead to a particular result, and just stay focused on cultivating the wisdom so you can make different decisions, and now you'll experience different results. Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am. I see some more hands back there. I'm not sure who's first or second. You guys feel free to go whenever you like.
You just talk about decisions, but how could we know at that moment what is a wise decision, what is good or bad decision?
This is where you study the natural law of karma. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to be teaching a topic. It's called, the natural law of karma. What is karma and how does it affect me? So when you study the teachings of the Buddha, that's what you're doing. When we talk about awakening to enlightenment, what it means is to cultivate wisdom. And what you're cultivating wisdom about is these natural laws. And as you learn about these natural laws, you're cultivating the wisdom about them, and now you'll know what is wise and unwise. It's not going to take you to the point of, should I go to this university or that university? That's something that you've got to figure out, but you'll understand the natural laws in terms of how to interact with that university and how to make wise choices and things of this nature, right? So the natural law of karma is helping you to be able to see the cause and effect relationship between the decisions that you make and how you make decisions. And if you're making decisions through craving, anger, and ignorance, you can know that it's going to produce unwholesome results for you. But when you make decisions through the wholesome roots, which I'm about to introduce you to here in a moment, that's what's going to produce the wholesome results for you. So there's studying of the natural law of karma. There's studying the teachings of the Buddha. That you're not believing in those. You're cultivating the wisdom about these natural laws, and that's what it means to awaken, is cultivate the wisdom. So right now, sitting here today, if you've never studied these teachings, it would be very challenging for you to be able to see what's wise or unwise. But the more deeply that you study them and you don't believe them, you can actually see what's wise and unwise. And this is a first start at helping you to be able to do that. I can't hear you. But yes, you can ask another question. I think you...
Other questions? That's you also talk about you're glad to see everyone is doing.
The batteries are impermanent, just like the Buddha taught. Yes. Maybe we'll go to this young lady over here and you can get another mic. Okay? Yes, ma'am. Would you like to go? Well, she's getting, okay, she's got her mic now. Sure.
Yes. And I feel like also a part of me is great to seeing everyone doing great. Mm-hmm. And the part of me think, they are doing great and I'm not good enough. And I can't stop compare with others or compare with.
Okay. What you're doing there is, this is called conceit. this is part of the fetters. So remember here, I'm teaching you about a high level understanding of the pollutions, but at a deeper level, there's 10 individual fetters. These are the 10 pollutions. And one of those is conceit. What conceit is where you're measuring and comparing, thinking of yourself as either superior or inferior to other people. This is something that needs to be eradicated from the mind, because as long as you're doing that, you can't experience peace and joy in your day-to-day life. So there's teachings for you to help you eliminate that. That's part of the ego. And each unenlightened being is going to have this in their mind. So there's teachings to help you learn how to eliminate that conceit. But you need to know the Eightfold Path. You need to know more about this conceit and how to eliminate it. But underlining all of that is still craving. That's what's causing your mind to be discontent, is this person has this, you have this over here, you're craving this, you're longing, yearning for this, and your mind doesn't have that. It's not getting what it wants. And that's why there's discontentedness in the mind. So it's still these three poisons that is plaguing the mind, but at a more detailed level, you need to be able to understand the conceit and how to eliminate it. More questions?
If some people harm me here, and normally if I defend myself in the moment, the hunger go away, because in such a way I get back the negativity or the problems, the anger they transmit, I give back. But if I don't cannot defend myself, this anger can stay there for a long time, and it's really a weight.
Yeah, the anger isn't being caused by whether or not you defend yourself or not, right? The Buddha's not teaching you to just sit there and let someone punch you in the face and stab you with a knife. That's not what he's teaching you. Having love and kindness for others isn't to just sit there and let someone stab you, because having loving kindness and compassion for all beings, it starts with this being, who you are. You need to have loving kindness and compassion for this being. So just standing there and letting someone stab you with a knife or punch you.
Defend myself by words, I was meaning.
Okay.
Just to reply to the other person.
Okay, let me finish. So if somebody is causing harm, when you talk about harm, that's what you said. When we talk about harm, you can cause harm to someone's physical body, you can cause harm to their material possessions, and you could cause harm to someone's reputation. That's what it means to cause harm. Okay, so that's why I used the example of stabbing and punching and stuff like that, because that's causing harm. Okay, so if you were to just stand there and let someone do that, that wouldn't be loving kindness and compassion for this being who you are. So you would like to be able to come to the middle where you can make wise decisions to protect this being through making sure that as this person's trying to punch you or stab you with a knife, that, yeah, you can defend yourself. In terms of words, if somebody is saying something that's unkind, if it's impolite, unkind, unfriendly, and disrespectful, there's nothing you need to say to that person. All you need to do is walk away. It's your ego that's wanting you to stand there and try to convince them that you're not that. I'm not that person. I'm not this. And the mind wants to argue with this person. But if you don't have ego, you'll be completely comfortable just walking away. Their anger, their hostility, their bitterness is coming from their mind. You're not going to change that by yelling and hollering, arguing with them. And even if you could, it doesn't mean that they're going to continue to think in the way that you're trying to tell them to think. This would be an individual's ego, that when you hear things that are unkind or disrespectful, that you feel like you have to argue back or convince them something different. Instead, if this person wants to be bitter and harsh and hostile, impolite, unkind, unfriendly, and disrespectful, just walk away. But your ego won't let you do that. You're going to feel like you need to bolster up and puff out your chest, and you need to convince them through your words that you're not that thing. That's unwise, because you're going to be arguing with countless people in your day-to-day life. This comes from the mind's craving. The mind wants to be perceived by others in a certain way. I want everybody to think of me in this way. Where you live in an impermanent world, some people are going to think of you in this way, but some people are going to think about you in this way. Not everyone in the world is going to love you, but not everyone in the world is going to hate you either, right? That's impermanence. Even the Buddha, there's some people that hate him, right? So surely if people hate the Buddha, they're going to hate you too. right? So you can't ever get to a point where everybody loves you. But you need to be able to understand that that hatred is coming from their mind. It's not coming from your mind. The reason why they hate you is because they have craving in their mind and they want you to be a certain way. And now when you're that way, they're happy. And when you're not that way, they're angry or frustrated. So you can't change that for them. They have to decide for themselves. So the best thing you can do when someone's bitter and harsh and hostile through their words is just walk away. That's the best thing you can do. But again, your ego is not going to want you to do that. But if you walk away more and more, that ego can get out of there, and now you can just feel comfortable walking away. Mm-hmm. I'm having trouble hearing you. It sounds like the microphone's out. We've been using these mics throughout the week, and I think they haven't been changed. The batteries haven't been changed.
Wait.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's okay. You said
if you come a little bit closer, since the batteries are weak, the receiver's up here. If you come a little bit closer, yeah, or use a different microphone. I think that one's weak too.
yeah, it's okay. You said our anxiety is out of a brain, but what if suffering, like a woman who's facing domestic violence, is her pain is out of her mind side?
I didn't know if I heard everything. You said something about anxiety and stress and domestic violence.
Yeah. Because you said our frustration is all caused by our mind side.
Not from the brain, from the mind. These are two different things. The brain is the physical organ. The mind is non-physical. So if somebody's being physically assaulted, right, that's obviously unwise to continue to stay in that situation. But any frustration that's being experienced in that situation, it's coming from the mind itself, because the mind's craving for everyone to treat me this way. And if people treat me this way, I'm happy. But if they treat me this way, I'm angry or sad or frustrated. But whatever decisions that were made that got into that situation where someone's now physically assaulting you, you can make different decisions. You can choose to make different decisions. But someone needs to be able to look at that situation and see, what were the decisions I made that led to this situation? And now if you look at that and you cultivate wisdom, you can make different decisions so that you're not in that situation any longer.
Then talking about giving, what if someone never feels satisfied, then will you keep giving or you'll just stop?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand your question.
Yeah, talking about giving, when you're giving something to others and they never feel satisfied, will you keep giving or just stop?
Oh, I see. So if you're giving, you shouldn't be giving in order to satisfy the other person, because that's conditional happiness. They're having happiness based on the condition that you're giving them something. And now they can only be happy when you give them something. So if you give them something and they get really excited, and you don't give them something and they get angry or frustrated, that's their craving, desire, attachment that's producing that. In that situation, you'd be best to not give them anything any further, because then it's going to allow them to train their mind to let go, where they're not having the expectation that you will give them something. And now when they let go, then they can train their mind to be peaceful and joyful whether you give them something or not. So in that situation, if I saw that somebody was happy when I gave them something and angry when I wasn't giving them something, in the vast majority of those situations, I wouldn't give them anything further, because I can see that their mind's attached to me giving them something. And the most loving and kind thing that I could do for this person is choose to not give them something any longer, so they can choose to let go. Their mind can let go. And now they can get some more peacefulness because of that. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so I think that's all the questions here. You might decide to turn off all those mics, even though the lights are off, they're still on. So now to share with you this last one, because this last one is the whole reason why the other two actually exist. If it wasn't for this ignorance or the unknowing of true reality or the lack of wisdom, craving and anger wouldn't continue to exist in the mind. This unknowing of true reality is the mind not understanding how the world truly works, how it truly functions. The mind craves permanence while it lives in an impermanent world. This is just the lack of wisdom that the mind has. It doesn't understand the universal truth of impermanence, that things are constantly changing in the world around you. But the mind's ignorance allows it to continue to crave permanence. So while we call it craving, anger, and ignorance, it's really because of ignorance that craving and anger continues. The more you cultivate wisdom, you can then learn how to eliminate your craving and your anger. So the mind has a lack of wisdom of things like the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, the Five Precepts, the Brahma Viharas, the Natural Law of Karma, the Seven Factors of Enlightenment, the extensive meditation training, the 10 fetters. All of these things the mind's lacking wisdom about. And as long as it lacks wisdom about how the world truly is, it will continue to have difficulties and struggles in day-to-day life. So it's because of the lack of wisdom or this confusion or this misunderstanding that the mind continues to crave and it continues to have anger. And that's why nothing on the path to enlightenment is based in belief, because you need to cultivate wisdom. That's the solution to getting rid of this unknowing of true reality or this lack of wisdom, this confusion or misunderstanding in the mind. So this is what's keeping all the others in the mind. And that's why you're always working to cultivate wisdom. You're not a believer. You're not a devotee. You're not a follower. You're an independent practitioner who's looking to cultivate wisdom. And a teacher is essentially like a tour guide. We're pointing out for you the things that you need to learn, and we're providing you the resources to be able to do that. But it's you that's doing the work to cultivate the wisdom, to learn, examine, investigate, to reflect, independently verify, and then to practice. That's what's going to lead to your wisdom. And as you cultivate this wisdom, you will navigate the world more peacefully. So, for example, if you think back to when we were children, we lacked wisdom of the natural law of gravity. And because of that lack of wisdom, we struggled and we had difficulties. We fell down, we hit our head, we bumped our elbows, we broke our toys. We had all kinds of difficulties because we lacked wisdom of the natural law of gravity. We never believed in this natural law. We can see it for ourselves. We know it exists. Right? We're not believing that the natural law of gravity is there. We know that it exists, and it affects us whether we're aware of it or not. There's other natural laws, and the Buddha taught these natural laws in a way that you can independently verify that they exist, just like the natural law of gravity. And just like now with the natural law of gravity, we tie our shoes a bit tighter. We walk down the street more calmly. When we were a kid, we were all giddy and bouncing around. We look at the surface of the sidewalk. Now we can climb ladders, we can ride bicycles, we can fly on airplanes all over the world. Because we have wisdom, we make wiser decisions, and now we're experiencing wholesome results related to the natural law of gravity. Well, there's other natural laws that are affecting you, whether you're aware of it or not. And when you don't have wisdom of those natural laws, you will tend to go out into the world and make unwise decisions, and you will experience unwholesome results. And because of that lack of wisdom, when those unwholesome results are coming back to you, you'll think it's good luck, bad luck, destiny, fate, God, an entity called the universe, or blame it on other people, when in reality it's coming from one's own decisions. So as you cultivate wisdom about these natural laws, now you can navigate the world more peacefully. That's what we mean when we say awakening to enlightenment. You're cultivating wisdom about these natural laws so that now you can navigate the world more peacefully. Because if you live in a world that you don't understand, of course you'll have struggles and difficulties. If you've ever watched the news, or if you ever heard about things that your brothers and sisters or your parents are doing, and you're like, I just don't understand why these people keep doing this. I just don't understand this world, right? You might have said this before when you watch the news, or you hear about things that your family or friends are doing. That's the mind living in a world that it doesn't understand. It doesn't understand the natural laws. But when you understand these natural laws, then you'll navigate the world more peacefully, just like with the natural law of gravity. So that's why none of the teachings of the Buddha are based in belief. You're cultivating wisdom. And that's what's going to lead to you now awakening and making wiser and wiser decisions that's leading to more and more wholesome results. So just to kind of summarize what we've been talking about, and then I'll open up for any final questions. is there's the three poisons, the three unwholesome roots, or the three fires of craving, anger, and ignorance, or the unknowing of true reality. Some people call it greed, hatred, and delusion, or desire, ill will, and confusion. This is what's keeping the mind in the unenlightened state. Continuing to experience anger, sadness, frustration, stress, anxiety, guilt, shame, fear, all these feelings over and over and over again. It's because of this in the mind. But you can train it. And you can uproot this out of the mind, getting to peace and joy. Slowly but surely, you can gradually train your mind to do that. And what you're doing is you're applying the antidotes, or the wholesome roots. The wholesome roots are generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom, because these are the exact opposites of craving, anger, and ignorance. If the mind is craving and it's holding on to things, wanting it to be permanent, well, the opposite of that is giving and sharing, living open-handedly, being joyful, and sharing with others. If the mind's angry and having hatred and bitterness and hostility, frustration and dislike towards others, the opposite of that is loving kindness, unconditional love, love for all beings, having a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. And then if the mind is having confusion or delusion, or this unknowing of true reality, this lack of wisdom, this ignorance, the opposite of that is wisdom. When you can see the truth for yourself, now you have wisdom, and you can make decisions through that wisdom. Right? So these are the three wholesome roots, or the antidotes of generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom. So what you're doing on the path to enlightenment is you're gradually bringing down your craving, anger, and ignorance, and you're gradually increasing your generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom. And now more and more, you're living your life through that, making decisions through generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom. And as you do, you're going to be experiencing more and more wholesome results in your day-to-day life. Okay, so this is the purification of the mind and purifying it of these three poisons. So any questions that you guys would like to ask as part of this? No questions? Okay. I don't see any questions online either. So it's basically about 11 o'clock. What I'm going to do here is take a 20-minute break. And when we come back at 11:20, I'm going to start with the 5 precepts. These are 5 impactful decisions that are oftentimes based in craving, anger, and ignorance. But when you understand these 5 impactful decisions and you get rid of the craving, anger, and ignorance in the mind, you can actually make these decisions wisely, and it'll produce wholesome results. If you've ever heard that the Buddha taught no killing, no stealing, no sexual misconduct, no lying, no intoxicants, the Buddha actually didn't teach that. That sounds like black and white. It sounds like rules and commandments. I'm actually going to share the original words of the Buddha on this important teaching, and I'm going to show you how to relate it to day-to-day life, so you can see for yourself how to actually practice these teachings in your day-to-day life, relating it to modern decisions that you make in your day-to-day life. So if you guys would like to take a break, feel free. Some of you guys may not be coming back from break. You might have just planned to be here this morning, and that's fine. It's wonderful to have you here. If you'd like to come back, you're more than welcome to, and you can continue to learn. And as I mentioned this afternoon, I'm going to be teaching walking meditation. I'm going to be starting that around 2 o'clock this afternoon. So you're welcome to come and go as you please. But whatever you choose to do, whether you're here after break or you head out, I'd just like you to know it's been wonderful to share these teachings with you. And whatever you choose to do today, have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. We'll see you next time. Sawadee krap. Sawadee krap. You're welcome.